The Nike Vomero 18. Does this shoe pay homage to its predecessors, and is this shoe advertised to be everything it's supposed to be? Let's answer those questions and find out. So before we get into the video, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you're already subscribed, watching the content, thanks so much. Love you guys a lot. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and Strava for all sorts of other updates, things like that, race updates, and yeah, just a lot of training for sub-3 marathon work. So without further ado, I guess we'll just kick off the shoe right off the rip as to why we bought this thing. We'll get into specs and all that, and yeah. So first things first, I have run in the Vomero 16 previously. I skipped the 17 either because it just flew under my radar or I wasn't running Nike at the time. It's possible the latter was an option as to why that happened, but nevertheless, we're back with the 18 because I need a replacement for the Nova Blast 5s. As I'm reaching a little bit over 250 miles in those shoes, I need something I can comfortably transition into once those shoes are going to go flat, right? So the things with that is we're kind of approaching that early spring season as it's kind of creeping in now. So I need a shoe that's got a big foam stack, is not going to push too fast during my easy runs, and just something I can trust, right? And now Nike, as you've probably watched with this channel, we have a love-hate relationship. Like, there was a slew of good years, there was a slew of bad years, bad product design, and we're slowly seeing it come around. For the most part, like the racing shoe usually hasn't been bad. We know the Alpha Fly is good and all that. Okay, whatever. We're not going to go into that tangent. Let's get into specs right away. I'll list them right here. We're going to go over everything as it is. For this shoe in size 8.5, it's about 310 grams. That puts it like at approximately 10 to like 9.8 ounces, if the calculation is correct there. The shoe foam stack, which is absolutely crazy. We have a 46 millimeter heel, 36 millimeter forefoot, 10 millimeter offset. In comparison to the Vomero 16, that 10 millimeter offset is still about the same, which the principle behind that shoe was, let's have that 10 millimeter offset for more of a calf emphasis with that high heel kind of stride, or the high heel shape with the rocker shape that the shoe had then. And keep it more for a slower, longer run style shoe to preserve your other muscles for race day when we reduce that offset, you know what I mean? Other things to note here, right off the rip, is that we do have a fairly good shape and size textile mesh upper on the shoe. A lot of breathability in the toe box area. I do have some concerns with it as we get along. We do have like this fly wire that's running the duration of the shoelaces, and that's how they're being laced in, is through that wire. Another concern, we'll talk about that as we get there. We have a pretty snug, tight fit in, I would say, the eyelids of the shoe when it comes to these shoelaces. It's a similar conundrum that I had with the early React series shoes and with the Pegasus Turbo relaunch that came out, I think, late last year, early this year, I think. I don't think it was this year. I think it was last year. Anyway, the point there is the shoelaces are running kind of large. The eyelids are sort of thin, and I'm worried that through just repetition of tying the shoes, I'm going to rip them. Just another concern, but we'll address that as we get there. And then again, we have like the textile piece for the Nike logo is just like a plastic kind of straight across rubbery texture piece. It's cool. In the heel, we have a pretty standard heel guard, nothing crazy. It's not like bulky like it was in the Invincible or the React. A lot of flexibility in the heel and the heel collar as well, so nothing crazy with that. The fit is pretty good, a lot of cushion. The only thing I would address, this is at least in my right foot. I don't know, because I didn't pay attention. This is a weird run that I had today. I'm not sure if it's this piece of the shoe or it's the tongue itself, but there's a little bit of itching that occurs on my ankle, and that may have been as a result of maybe a sock choice, which this will be another theme when it comes to reviewing this shoe, is I don't know if the sock I had was particularly good. We'll get there, right? Other things to note, let's talk foams, right? So we should have probably done this at the beginning of the video, is show you what the shoe looks like after about approximately 4 miles of running. This is sort of what we got on the outsole with all the rubber pieces and all that. And damage-wise, well, before damage, let's talk about the foam stacks themselves, right? So based on my initial research on this, we have 2 stacks we're working with. We got this top layer, which is the Zoom X, and then Nike's doing this thing again where they write Zoom X on the other compound foam, which is React X, and that's the it's supposed to resemble more of the Zoom EVA foam that the previous shoe models had, which is to resemble, I guess, a slightly thicker stack that doesn't have as much sink as something like the Zoom X, and it's supposed to protect the shoe and, you know, give you a little bit more of a rebound as a result. The purpose of it is just longevity, right? Whereas the Zoom X is to give you that crazy rebound response that you would be looking for in like the race day shoes. And now it's worth noting that the shoe has some recyclable components, so it's possible that that Zoom X foam compound might be recycled. Don't quote me on it. If you know, sound off in the comments. Just let me know on that. And also sound off in the comments if you had the Vomero 17. Just give me kind of like a quick synopsis of the shoe as I'm discussing the 18, like if it's similar, if the shoe is good or whatnot. Just let me know, right? So I know for future reference. Anyway, when we talk about damages, nothing too crazy, right? I mean, we do have some exposed React X that's just absorbing a little bit of dirt. We got, you know, the lugs of the shoes, which are looking pretty much okay so far. We just have a little bit of wear on that outside area again with the shoe. I think that goes both ways at this point in time. Yes, it does. The only thing I was concerned with was mostly the landing in this particular area where the ball of my foot is. Like, this rubber is a little bit abrasive. It might be just a case of, you know, just the first break-in run where the foam will start adjusting and calibrating to how I'm striking the ground. Maybe this rubber patch will kind of loosen itself up, hopefully. Otherwise, this is kind of a tough piece of the shoe as I got to like 4 miles in, right? All right. So that was like my first initial concern that we kind of deep dove, which is this rubber compound kind of has it's kind of bulky, right? The shoe itself also looks sort of bulky if you look at it that way, but anyone who's kind of had a Vomero series shoe for the last couple of years knows that the shoe is built bulky, but it really isn't, right? It's built, from my understanding, to be like maximum support for your long runs, which would follow more of a slower tempo pace, right? And I mean like slower tempo, not like tempo run. Just a correction there. So I knew that with the Vomero 16 that like putting in 10 to 13, 15 mile runs back in 2022 when I had that shoe, I remember the runs felt really good, or like my feet felt fine after those. That's the expectation I'm looking forward to with the Vomero 18 when we get to that point. Now, if you've had the shoe longer than me and you've already put it through those tests and trials and tribulations, again, sound off, let me know what's going on. If you think we're getting to that Vomero family sort of, like the predecessors would be proud of this shoe, right? Because at this point, with only 4 miles deep, it's kind of checking some of the boxes off that it's like, it's comfortable, it's got a good ride to it overall. The rocker shape, I'm fine with it. It's perfectly comfortable. You know, my midfoot to roll strike is just fine with this thing. Again, it looks bulky. It feels a little bulky at first, but once you're kind of in the spin of things, you're fine. Based on the paces I had with the shoe, yes, it runs a little bit heavier, but as a result, I'm toning back my pace a little bit to like 8 minutes to 8:15 per mile, which is about where I need it to be. And yeah, that's really what I'm looking for, is just keeping this thing as a slower daily to recovery style daily training sort of effort, or I put it into my longer runs and have the maximum support that I could achieve from it. And again, just your disclaimer, if you're a professional athlete, the shoe is technically illegal to race in because of how high the stack is. 46 millimeters is pretty high. So I think recovery is what's emphasized in this particular shoe. But like racing with this thing, not so much. Obviously, there's other categories. Like you can go into the Alpha Fly, the Vapor Fly, any of those other particular shoes with big stacks. If you're not a professional athlete, this is not a concern for you, right? So the question there is, well, before we get into those questions, yeah, let's address these again. My initial concern with the textile was starting probably on this shoe, right? So the mesh is great, I think. It's breathable enough, and the issues I have is that this textile piece right here, this like weave, it looks like part of it is kind of sticking on this area and leaves a slight gap here. So I'm wondering over time if I will start experiencing or seeing tears in this particular area of the shoe. Just something for me to monitor, just kind of a rhetorical question as I'm looking at it. It's like in these two particular areas, mostly on this side, and then we have the same thing on this shoe in these particular areas. It's just the stitching seems to be pulling or kind of protruding from the mesh in a really weird way, and I just want to keep looking at that, just see if that's going to be an issue moving forward. Yeah, that's really the piece I want to get with that. The Flywire, again, I've heard your guys' takes on it, and I agree with those takes, which is that when running shoelaces through something like a Flywire, the possibility of tearing this Flywire and just breaking the whole shoe from a shoelace standpoint greatly increases from this particular tech. For the shoe, it's probably a cost cut or cost saving approach to the shoelaces. I'm not a fan of them. I think a lot of you guys are not. But if you like it, cool. It's just not for me, but I'll roll with it for now, right? And the last thing, I think I already talked about this, but we'll just touch upon it briefly one more time, is like the slight itching I had on my ankle from either this tongue area or this particular area of the shoe. Something was rubbing in a funny way. It wasn't like burning my... or like putting any rash or blistering. It was just like kind of itching a little bit. So that might be just something of the material choice or maybe the sock choice I had. So yeah. And the last thing I would discuss is probably with my just current running form. The shoe is okay. With one thing that I have to keep in strong mind is that with a 10 millimeter offset, there's that high heel emphasis, right? And if I'm dealing with a post-subungular hematoma in my big toe, which means that there was a lot of pressure on the toenail, the toe and the nail turned black, and then after a couple of months the toenail fell off. I have a really thin toenail that was underneath that's been growing gradually. I have to preserve that toenail for as long as I can so it can grow out and be at full strength, and then, my running form can be back to, good form. I have to be careful with this shoe that it doesn't have too much of that toe box or that, that toe strike emphasis because of how high the shoe runs. Like, best case to protect and preserve that toenail will be like the lower I can keep it to being neutral as possible, so I can ride neutral rather than attack the shoe from like a toe strike sort of approach. This is just a really minimal thing, but I noticed this was an issue with my toes when I was running in the the tempo next percents, because those things were about a 10 millimeter offset as well, high stack shoe. And when I was running daily in that particular shoe, I was starting to beat up my toenails pretty bad, but they weren't like in the subungular hematomas stance, but they were like cracking the toenails. They were just like brittle and breaking as a result of those shoes. So this would be a different story because of, the design of the shoes to be as comfortable as possible. So overall, I think the shoe is fine for what I wanted to do. If you're a Nike purist and you understand what the Vomero is supposed to do in your shoe lineup, then I think so far, compared at least to the 16, the shoe is going to do just fine. If you wanted something faster in your lineup, it's probably not the Vomero I would go for. Maybe I would consider like an older Pegasus, maybe like Tempo or Pegasus Turbo at the very least. And then, of course, you have your race shoe lineups like your Alpha Fly, Vaporfly, your Tempo Next Percent if you want one. But yeah, this is supposed to be on that lower scale. Like, this is your daily trainer type of shoe. And yeah, it rides comfortable. I think it's comfortable so far. We're going to take it for some slightly longer runs after my race in Charleston. So yes, I will take these and the Nova Blast with me to Charleston. And hopefully they don't break my toenails as I'm kind of in this taper for race day, right? Maybe the run or the day after the run itself, I'll take these for a longer run through the streets of Charleston, and we'll see kind of what happens. But if you agree or disagree with the assessment, let me know in the comments below. If you have an experience with the shoe that you'd like to share that I should consider for the future, same thing, just lay it out. I want to know what's going on because Nike is always kind of usually been consistent, but then they had that bad streak, and I think they're slowly coming around, but we need to trust but verify in this case. So, yeah, I think we'll leave it at that. So, thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.